Hey, how's it going everybody? BurntBrian here. Welcome back to another Tall Can Tuesday. In this video series, I like to give you updates on my life, the future of the channel, answer random questions and topics submitted by you, the fine viewers, and of course, drink some good beer. First thing I want to start off with today is say, I don't know if you noticed, I just have this little mustache going. Don't worry, this probably isn't going to be a permanent thing or anything. I was just playing around. I kind of messed up my goatee and said, screw it, I'm going to leave it like this. And of course, I had a couple coworkers that one called me a pedophile and one said I looked like a super trooper. Either way, I'm just kind of having a little fun and rocking this stash for a little while. But anyway, this beer I picked up just 2 nights ago or so. I had a friend with me who's kind enough to give me a ride home from work since I'm still biking to work every day. And he said, hey, why don't you try this one? If you haven't had it. Nope, I haven't had this one yet. I've had several from Ommegang. Really enjoy their beers. They're usually all really good, but I figured this would be nice for a Tall Can Tuesday. This is their Abbey Ale. It's a Dubel Ale, brewed with licorice root. I don't know if I like that. See, I didn't even read any of the ingredients. Sweet orange peel, coriander, cumin, and anise. Okay, so it says it's a rich, fruity, and aromatic Burgundian brew. Sorry, I screwed that up. And this one's at 8.2% per volume. It says to serve at 50 degrees, so this will probably get better as it warms up a little bit. On the side, we've got Ommegang Abbey Ale is directly influenced by the patience and wisdom of the Benedictines who ever seek divine union. A pretty high standard for an ale, but a good one, we think. Deep burgundy color, rich and malty. Enjoy with savory dishes, rich cheeses, and almost every dessert. Alright, and I've read the Ommegang Ales thing on the side there before, so let's go ahead and get to this. Get another one of these fancy schmancy bottles with the cork top here. And let's see if I can have a little more luck getting this one out than I did the one other day. Here we go. Boom. Nice. Good carbonation. Definitely bubbling up. It does smell kind of decent. I hate licorice, so when I see something with licorice, I'm kind of like, eh. But let's take a look at the pour. You can tell that this one isn't, don't think it's too heavily filtered of a beer. It looks like I'm seeing a good bit of sediment floating around in there. It does have a very dark tan, like dark copper color to it, like a dirty copper. It's got a beautiful head to it. You're looking at about 2.5 fingers on the top there. And again, it is a little murky and cloudy, and I definitely see some yeast sediments and whatnot floating around in there. As far as how it smells, it smells like what I would honestly expect from an Abbey Ale, which is just kind of more of a biscuity, kind of malty, bready aroma. Not bad. I mean, a typical kind of ale smell. Let me give it a taste here. These types of beers aren't usually my favorite, but I figured I could trust Ommegang with this because I really like most of the exotic beers that they put out. And this one really does have a nice, like it describes, a nice fruity taste compared to what I was really expecting. So awesome, good beer. All right, today we're going to start off with a couple questions, and then again, I've got a couple topics to talk about and a story or so to get to share with all of you guys. And I appreciate all the support. Everybody's been commenting how much they enjoy the stories and stuff at the end. So that's definitely going to be a staple at the end of all these videos. Be some kind of funny, crazy, whatever drug-induced kind of story that I can remember from way back. But anyway, we're going to start with CB Fall. He says, what was your first job? And to me, my first job was pretty memorable. It was, took one of the first computer classes, the early computer classes that we had in high school. And so I don't remember, this was probably back in 1990 or somewhere around there, 91. I remember that our teacher had said that the local real estate agency, Century 21, was looking for somebody to be their, I like to say executive administrator or an executive assistant is the term that I like to use. I wasn't, I wasn't just the phone answerer. I did all kinds of stuff. Greeted all the guests that came in the door. I did all of the updates for the ads for different houses to make sure the prices were right, make sure descriptions were good. So I updated the website. And it was a super cool job. On the weekends, I remember Saturday, the broker's son was also an agent there at the place, and he was such an awesome guy. We would have a whole lot of fun. There was a barbecue place, Johnny's, right across the street. And, this was before they moved to a new building and lowered the quality of their food. It was just still like the original good tasting stuff. And, we'd go over there on Saturday when his mom wasn't around. It was just me and a couple of the agents at the real estate office, and we would just sit around and we'd watch cartoons or watch television shows and just have fun and drink, not drink beers, but just drink our sweet teas and enjoy our barbecue and stuff. It was a really awesome job. I learned a whole lot as far as data entry goes. It's really what kind of helped me learn more about Microsoft Office and Excel and PowerPoint and all the different functions and stuff. It was just a neat experience all around. Definitely a cool first job, I think, for somebody in high school to start out working at a place where I wore khakis every day and a polo shirt, or I wore a nice dress shirt with a tie and all. Really just had an awesome time at that job. And they took care of me. Really good people, and definitely I probably one of my favorite early work experiences. Of course, I dropped the pad here. All right. But anyway, I surely appreciate the question, man. Thanks so much, and cheers. While it is really tasty, this is another one that's going to be hard to chug. Alright. I guess before I get to this question, I should chug a little more. This is going to be a kind of a long one. Alright, so Flintquitch, another awesome fan who's been kind enough to give me a lot of great questions and topics. He says, who would be in your dream supergroup band? Vocals, one or two guitarists, bassists, and a drummer. Now, this one's definitely really hard for me to compile because I'm a fan of so many different music genres and so many different artists. So I kind of tried to, before I get to the vocals, we'll start with the others because I wanted to try to find, a good band that the vocalist may be able to fit into, but it might be a little bit of a stretch. Anyway, as far as drums go, I wanted to go with either John Bonham from Led Zeppelin, because if we're going to talk about my super band without whether they're alive or dead, he's to me still just one of the most amazing drummers of all time. I love his long 14-minute solos, like Moby Dick was just absolutely amazing. I still have the live concert somewhere. It's so good. And besides that, if it wasn't him, I would want Rick Allen from Def Leppard. He's the one-armed drummer. Absolutely amazing. I've always loved Def Leppard. Thought they were a great band, and I just love his style. And for somebody with one arm, he rocks it harder than a lot of those, pussy bands that are out there nowadays. So that'll bring me to bass player. As far as the bassist goes, I guess I would probably go with Cliff Burton. Again, another person who's passed away too soon. Cliff was the original bassist for Metallica way back in the day, and Cliff was just amazing. I mean, he's the one who really kind of got me into wanting to learn how to play an instrument, and I got a bass for Christmas one year and started to learn the bass solo that he has on the Kill 'Em All record, one of the very first Metallica albums. It was just so amazing, and that's what inspired me to get into it all. And I guess if I wouldn't go with him, if I could have any other choice, it would be Chris Squire from Yes. If you don't know who Yes is, they're just a super funky band. Look up Roundabout, and that bass solo alone is just amazing. The whole song, the bass is just dropping, and I love the funky beat. He's definitely a great bass player. So that would take us to guitars. There are so many amazing guitarists, and if I wanted to, I could look at some local, like, less known people. Like, if you want to find some incredibly talented guitar players, go to Candy Rat Records on YouTube, check them out. They're always finding just incredible small talent. People like Ewan Dobson and Andy McKee and Ethan Case. Who else was I going to mention? Callum Graham, he's another one. Just awesome, really great guitar players. Highly recommend you check them out. But as far as, just people in big-time bands that we would all recognize, Randy Rhoads is definitely way up there on my list. He was just absolutely amazing guitar player for his time. And will be missed. He's right up there with Dimebag Darrell. I would like Dimebag as well. But if I couldn't have any of them, it would be Stevie Ray Vaughan, because SRV is the man. He's my favorite guitar player of all time, including, I love Jimmy Page, and so many guitar players that I idolize: Steve Vai, Eric Johnson, Joe Satriani, just innumerable people. But those would be my dream, to have this super crunchy, bluesy, like blues meets metal kind of, or not metal, just heavy rock, hard rock kind of thing. And so that would lead me to my vocals. If I'm looking for this crunchy kind of heavy band, I want somebody with a good voice. So this would probably lead me to either Rob Zombie, because I liked his style. I loved that heavy, funky metal, just crazy beats that they had. But more importantly, probably James Hetfield. And I'm biased because Metallica is one of my all-time favorite bands. I don't care what anybody says about them. Whether people want to say they sold out. Dave Mustaine, of course, used to play guitars with them, and he claimed they sold out a long time ago, and now he's been with, obviously, Megadeth for a super long time. But, Metallica is one of the hardest working bands that are still out there today, putting on incredible stage performances. When you go to a concert of theirs, you can expect it to be an epic experience, unlike so many other bands that just would rather pocket money than put on a really good show. And these guys work hard. They tour all the time. So again, I think throwing James at the vocals would probably be pretty epic band all around if you mix those styles or those people together. But anyway, hopefully that satisfies. Highly recommend you check out any of those people that I mentioned if you're not familiar with any of them or the bands, because they're all really great musicians. Of course, I could have gone with Hendrix or Clapton or so many others, but I was just kind of trying to build this awesome rock band. I put a little time into that one. So thanks again for the question, Flint Quitch, and cheers. Really good beer. Again, I'm not a fan of a lot of the ales, like these kind of style Abbey ales, but I do really like this one. It is one that's meant to kind of just be sipped on, relaxed, like they say, enjoyed with like cheese or some kind of a rich food like that. But we're going to fight through this one and probably have a really good buzz by the time. I'll probably do a couple stories in this one. I'm not sure. Anyway, I've got something else here from Seth King. Seth said, co-workers you couldn't stand working with in restaurants. And I don't want to call anybody out by name, specifically, and ruin anybody, because I can tell you my own faults. I can tell you that if you watched Seinfeld and saw the Soup Nazi, that was pretty much me in a lot of ways. I was a real asshole when I worked in the restaurant industry, and it didn't start out that way. It kind of just slowly evolved into this love-hate relationship, and I guess some of the people that I really hated would be the waitresses that thought that they, the really pretty ones. Again, I don't know why I pick on it. It's just anybody in general that tries to use their looks to get ahead in the workforce especially, but in general, if you get out of a speeding ticket because you look pretty, or you get something free because you look pretty, that kind of stuff really pisses me off. I don't fall for that, and I never did in my kitchen. So if somebody really screwed up the flow and I've got a full line of tickets, if I'm in the middle, I'm the lead guy, I'm the one who's calling out everything to the other guys, telling them when to drop and when to do their stuff, and I'm trying to work my station and get my sides and make sure the meat's cooking right, all that stuff, and somebody screws up my line and I'm in the middle, and now I've got to deal with this waitress who one of the places I worked at, they did all handwritten tickets, so rather than getting a nice, neat, legible, printed out ticket, I had to try to decipher hieroglyphics from people that looked like they were like writing in third grade language. And it's incredibly frustrating when you're super busy and you've got to keep calling somebody back because you can't understand the shit they're putting on a ticket, and you're under a time constraint. Things have to flow, they have to go in a specific order, and you can't have 30-minute ticket times. You've got to get things out 15, 20 minutes max. Try to get it go boom, boom, flow. And so that shit would always piss me off so much, and I would call back. I remember in particular one girl that came back, and she was trying to be all smiley and, show her boobs a little, poke them out and do this, and, you know, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I know I made her cry. She stood there, started tearing up, and then she went out and cried. And as she was walking out the door, I yelled at her the famous Tom Hanks quote from League of Their Own when he says, "There's no crying in baseball." I yelled at her, "There's no crying in the restaurant industry. Suck it up, sweetheart." And that's how it was. Again, I was a jerk. I wasn't. I mean, man, when I'm under the pressure, I perform. I work to my best, and I expect everyone else around me to work to their best. And so let me go ahead and take another swig real quick, because I can go on for this topic for just a couple minutes anyway. Nope, don't. There we go. That feels a little better. Top this bad boy off. Oh shit. Whoops. Didn't expect that. Alright. I mean, for the most part, I got along with most of the people I worked with in a sense. I mean, you know, most of the general managers I had were really good. Alright, I can tell you about two people in particular that really pissed me off. Alright, so there used to be this guy that would deliver sweets all around town. This was when I lived in Keystone Heights, and I worked at a place called Sabos. And this guy, Frank, made the most incredible treats. He was like a northern guy. I don't know if he was Boston, somewhere from up north anyway. And he would, I mean, the bear claws were the most incredible things. He would deliver all over town. He would stop by our little restaurant and stuff with his van full of awesome baked treats, and we would just pick whatever we wanted for breakfast, have, you know, really great stuff. Better than anything you can get at Dunkin' Donuts or any of that stuff. Really good quality, homemade sweets and treats. And apparently, I guess this guy's son at some point was looking for a job. He came down here. He had filled out this huge resume about how he had worked at Walt Disney World for all these years, and supposedly he was this chef that worked alongside who was it? Bobby Flay. And you know, I kind of read it. Was like, oh wow, this is awesome. You know, we'll have a good guy come here that knows what he's doing. But I mean, man, the shit that this guy would put out was, you know, we'd do a buffet on Sunday, and he would just make the most blandest shit. Like when it came to ham, we would put out these giant ham blocks and stuff, and that's basically all it was. He would bake a ham with really no seasoning, no flavor, no nothing added to it at all, just a basic plain ham. And, you know, he thought he was doing something incredible. And I know it's a buffet, I get that, but we would still try, on top of having some canned and cheap generic stuff, we would try to have some creative, awesome meats and things for the customers to try. Anyway, this guy came into town and he wanted a place to stay. I gave this guy a place to stay, and I immediately pegged him for who he was when he started talking about asking for cocaine and things. So obviously I understand why he's not working for Disney World, but it's because he got a bad coke habit and started getting into probably crack as well. And because I think he talked about the hard stuff, and when you're talking about the hard and soft, you're talking about coke and crack. And, you know, I gave this guy a place to stay a couple times, a couple days out of the while he was around, and he had the audacity to just completely fuck me over. And this was a job that I had been in it most of my life, and I still never really got a chance to express or to really talk about all this with the owner of the place at the time, and somebody that I considered a good friend. But I mean, he did such a horrible job, and then it turned out he was having sex with this really big, fat, obnoxious bitch, one of the head waitresses that I absolutely hated, an over-opinionated woman who, you know, tried to run my kitchen as well as try to run the front staff as well, and she was way out of her boundaries. She had no rights coming back and trying to do any of this. And apparently, so behind my back, he's talking shit to her, about her to me, but then he's having sex with this big old woman. And then one day I come to work, and I'm apparently told to go home, and I'm fired. And I'm not going to get into the details of all the circumstances that surrounded, you know, why the owner wasn't around at the time, but basically he was going through some grieving processes and was in mourning and could not have been around during the time. So he kind of left things into their hands and just assumed that I was this way. But they accused me of stealing meat, of stealing steaks, like a case of steaks. Now, bear in mind, that while I worked at this place, I could have anything I wanted at any time. All I had to do was ask. I just say, hey man, can I have this? Sure. I was even offered a case of steaks on the 4th of July one year that I could just eat. My boss said, yeah, take it. Go have fun. Cook some steaks with your friends. Never took it. I just left it in the freezer because I didn't need all that. I knew that I could always get whatever I wanted. At the end of my shift, if I wanted a beer, he would let me drink as much beer out of the keg as I wanted every night at the end of my shift. It was great. It was a perfect relationship. And then, of course, these people tried to accuse me. They got me fired. I went on unemployment. And my life went into a spiral after that. And then, of course, the restaurant ended up shutting its doors after 20-something years because of what was going on with the family. And we've just recently sort of reconnected and kind of talked about things with each other. But that was really hard for me to deal with. I hate those people still to this day with a passion. If I ever see that guy or I see that stupid bitch again, that big woman, you know, I don't know what I'd do. I mean, I'm not obviously going to be violent and hit anybody, but I would definitely give them a piece of my mind. I mean, man, they ruined a big part of my life, totally changed the way I was living. Meanwhile, they're just living on, I mean, this woman had a daughter that was 15 or 14. I think she was 15 at the time, still in high school, had a baby. Meanwhile, she's got 3 or 4 kids of her own, and one of her babies has a baby. So she's just reaping in so much welfare money, so much food stamps and all that, and that drives me insane. I never got any help when I needed it because I'm just a single man, and I'm really the only purpose for a single lower middle class man is just to, you know, pay for everybody else's entitlement programs and what they need to feed their family for all the mistakes they made in their life. Anyway, that's the topic for a whole nother discussion. Let me go ahead and take another swig before I move on to the next little segment here. Seth also says, what is your worst night ever? Well, I think worst night out ever. So my worst night ever out would be, I think we were going to Purple Porpoise. It was here in Gainesville, and I don't know if it was Purple Porpoise or if it was after that when they switched to what they called Gator City. But I remember they had this $10 at the door. So all you paid was $10, and it was all you could drink: liquor, beer, top shelf, anything. Now, we had only had a couple drinks because we got there really late, and I honestly, still to this day, we all kind of think we got drugged. I mean, something had to happen because there's just no way. We only had a couple drinks, and literally everybody that I was with, which was 5 or 6 people, everyone blacked out. We don't remember anything from the night. But apparently what had happened was we went there, we were partying, we went over to a place called Grog's, which was another place right across from the University of Florida. Our buddy was a bartender there. This dude used to hook us up like crazy. We would have $100, $150, $200 tabs, and he would go, oh, your tab's $10, whatever it was. So we'd always hook him up with a great tip. We had a great time. We were hanging out there for a short time waiting for him to get out of work. He got out, so we went over to the bar and started really partying, and I mean, obviously by the time he got out, it was pretty late. I honestly think at the time I was probably doing cocaine, if I remember right. Used to have this little bullet, is what they would call it. It's got a little lever on the side that was perfect size for like what we would call a divot bump or something, where you would kind of like form this little divot in the side of your hand, and it's just enough to, you know, get you a little quick pick-me-up. But anyway, this little bullet, you could put 1 gram to 2 grams in it, and you could go in the bathroom wherever you were, anywhere really, and no one would know. And you just kind of fill the little chamber, and nobody even really knows what the hell you just did. You just did a nice little bump to keep you going. And that probably could have attributed to why this night went so bad. But all I know is at the end, after partying at both different places, from what we were told, the bouncer at the bar that my buddy bartended at Grog's, he had saw how shitty we were, and he had put us all in this giant huddle. So we're all kind of like, you know, in a circle, holding each other up in this drunken, swaying circle. And he goes to get the car and come back. So when he came back, all of us were piled on top of each other. We had fallen on the ground. Our buddy Jay was on the very bottom of the pile, and his jaw ended up getting broken. So he had to have his jaw wired shut for a long time. He was drinking like all his meals through a straw. It was pretty rough. I woke up at my buddy's house, and I remember, you know, just seeing my friend at like 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning, butt naked, walking to the kitchen, pouring himself a drink. He's like, "What? It's my house." And I was like, "God damn, dude, what the fuck is going on?" It was an absolutely insane night. I ended up spraining my ankle, so I wake up, my ankle is swollen up, huge, can't walk on it or put any pressure. My buddy's got a broken jaw that had to be wired shut. Everybody had lost money. Nobody knows what the hell had happened that night. That was probably one of my absolute worst nights out at a bar. So, again, thanks a lot for the topics and the questions, Seth. Definitely keep them coming in next week's video. Appreciate it. Cheers. That buzz is kicking in nice. So that's all I got for the questions this week. Appreciate everybody who submitted. Don't forget you can add a question, topic, anything you want down below in the comments, and I'll get to them in next week's video. I am still working on a parody video for this whole butt commentary thing that I mentioned in last week's video. I need to find, like, I don't think I really want a thong, but I want some sort of, like, really tight, because I don't have any of this shit. I wear loose fitting clothes. I need, like, some sort of tight, like, underwear or shorts that really, like, cup the butt cheeks really nice. It, you know, it still shows them off, but I don't know. It's a really hard description. And I know this is going to be a disturbing video for some people, but I thought it'd be a whole lot of fun. And at first I was opposed to it, but I was challenged by a couple friends to say, no, you got to do this. So I'm definitely going to do a little parody video. Also, I want to thank Reckless Eating, Matt Zion specifically. He's got an awesome channel over there, and I'll have a link down in the description where you can check him out. In one of his recent carb videos, where they were looking at a Dunkin' Donuts product, he had given me just a really awesome shout out and trying to support smaller channels like mine. And he does that with a lot. They do the We Recommend, where they kind of try to share with you some of their favorite channels. Some of them are big, but for the most part, he tries to kind of help out the little guy, and I really appreciate that a lot. They've got over 500,000 subscribers and are doing really good, and it's just really nice when people like that, friends of yours are kind enough to give you a shout out. And I have a t-shirt on the way, so hopefully by the time I start filming again next week, I'll be sporting out their shirt and kind of giving them some shout outs and some other videos. But again, thanks so much to Reckless Eating and them. I guess the one other topic before I get to a story would be the Ghostbusters trailer. They just released this one, and look, I'm trying to be optimistic. I don't care that it's an all-female cast. What really bothers me is really the plot looks almost exactly like the original Ghostbusters movie, but just made with female cast. I mean, everything down to the fourth member that shows up happens to be a black person. It's the black woman. And she's the fourth wheel that comes in and finishes. I mean, I just don't understand if in the trailer they preface and talk about how 30 years ago these four people had saved the world from ghosts. So what happened? Did they just completely shut down the Ghostbusters headquarters? They lost all the technology to the proton packs. They lost all of that stuff, and nobody knows. I mean, maybe this is an alternate universe from the comic books. I don't know. All I know is it's just an exact copy of the other one. Everything down to the opening scene where it apparently looks like their first encounter with a ghost is, guess what? In a library, just like in Ghostbusters, and they get slimed by it. And they go on to start their business and to build their car from a hearse. I mean, they do everything is like a complete ripoff of the original Ghostbusters. So I'm holding out hope. Maybe it'll be decent. It just to me seems like a feminist piece of propaganda to me. And I have nothing against an all-female cast, but they should have come up with a more original storyline, to be honest. But again, that's just my opinions on that one. So that's going to bring us to story time with me real quick. Let me take another swig out of this beer. Cheers. Alright, so keeping up with my last few stories as far as, like, crazy drug stories go, there was one night in particular that I'll never forget. And I experimented with a lot of things, mostly psychedelics, things like mushrooms and acid and peyote and gel tabs and all that stuff. And I remember when we used to do our concoctions, we really didn't measure anything out. It was just, if we were going to make tea or make Kool-Aid, it was just so many mushrooms. We would just load our pot up with tons and tons of caps, and we would make this ultra concentrated drink. And I remember we would pour them into 20 to 25 ounce glasses, and we would just chug this stuff down. And so you really don't know how much of a dose you're taking. It's not like you're eating 1 or 2 caps and you're measuring it out, or you know how many grams. I've had this many grams of dried mushroom or whatever. These were fresh picked from a local place, Flying, was it Pegasus, the Flying Horseman Ranch. That place got shut down after people were landing their drug planes there from South America loaded with cocaine. I guess the feds or the DEA or somebody busted them flying and landing their planes out there. But that used to be the hot spot for getting mushrooms. I do feel better after that, so I apologize. This particular night was absolutely insane. I remember I had a blanket, and it just got so intense that I couldn't take it, because I'm sitting there, I'm looking around, and the walls are just breathing so hard and heavy, just constricting, and I couldn't take it anymore. I'm like, oh my god, this shit's intense. So I was just hiding under this blanket, covering my face for a while, and everyone was like, Brian, come here, come out. And I'd look out, and I remember seeing somebody had a cigarette. This was way back when, obviously, I used to smoke cigarettes. I've been quit for, I don't know, I want to say 6 years or longer. But I remember somebody had a cigarette, and they took their lighter. And in your lighter, you've got this flint. There's basically a little piece of flint rock. So when you strike, the striker is hitting the flint and causing a spark, and the release of the gas when you hit the button is causing a flame. So we would sit here and just grind down on the flint, and it would just kind of build up all of these little crystals of flint. And then you could take your cigarette, tip it over, and it was like you were throwing magic sparks at your cigarette, and it was just popping as you would sit there and throw these things. So that's the only thing that brought me out of my intense trip experience. Is I sat there and somebody gave me a cigarette, and I came out of it, and I was just sitting there for I don't know how long, just amazed and watching the sparks come off of the cigarette. Sometimes it's crazy. That very same night, I remember going outside and sitting on the porch, and it was just so intense that I'm looking around, and the trees are multicolored, and they're all moving in weird shapes, and I look at my feet on the ground, and it felt like my feet were just moving through the concrete. I'm telling you, psychedelics are definitely a really intense thing, and it's not something that I would really ever want to do again. But anyway, that's a little fun story for the night. I want to end it on that note. Had a great time with this video. I appreciate all the topics and questions from all of you. Thanks for all of your support. I'm going to try to chug this one down. Cheers. Oh yeah. All right. So again, thanks for watching, everybody. I really appreciate your support. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. Again, you can leave me a question or topic down below, and I'll get to it in next week's video. Damn, I got a good buzz. And yeah, that's about it. You can join me on all the various social networking sites. Links below in the description. And as always, stay toasty, my friends.